I stood outside the intensive care unit after a grueling midnight shift when Beatrice confronted me by the main elevators. The mother of my former husband smiled with a cold satisfaction that made her cruel intentions clear to everyone nearby. She announced loudly that leaving me was the greatest choice Harrison ever made because he now shared a newborn son with Nadine. I did not flinch because I knew the massive storm that was about to hit her family. 5 minutes later, a man they never anticipated would walk through those hospital doors to change everything. My name is Vivienne and I spent years repairing broken bodies in the emergency room without letting my hands shake. Growing up in a small town taught me to keep my head down and let my labor speak. I truly believed that holding my peace was a virtue, but that long silence eventually cost me my marriage. The clean scent of antiseptic and cotton inside the hospital always brought me a deep sense of comfort. It was the one sanctuary where nobody viewed me as inadequate or broken. I could manage a critical crisis or comfort a terrified child without my pulse rising. Yet that same resilience had a dangerous dark side, because it made me carry heavy burdens completely alone. I trusted that staying silent would be enough to protect my reputation. I married Harrison when we were young and full of bright ambition for our future together. We deeply desired a family of our own, but the cradle remained completely empty year after year. The lack of children became an unspoken ghost residing in our home during every single meal. When I suggested standard medical testing, Harrison became incredibly defensive and insisted his proud family line possessed no such biological flaws. I secretly underwent a thorough medical evaluation myself, and the results proved that my own body was perfectly healthy. I sat alone in my car reading the clinical documents with a mixture of relief and immense confusion. If I was healthy, then what was preventing us from starting our family? Before I could find answers, Harrison began whispering a devastating fabrication to his mother to shift the blame entirely onto my shoulders. Beatrice managed the local social circles with strict authority, and she quickly spread the rumor that I was inadequate. She comforted me with false pity at public gatherings while ensuring the entire community believed I was barren. She frequently reminded everyone that some women were simply not created for motherhood. I tolerated the humiliation because I foolishly expected the objective truth to reveal itself without my active intervention. My closest childhood companion, Nadine, became my primary confidant during those dark months of isolation. She visited my home with reassurances and told me that my professional achievements were enough to make me whole. I failed to notice how frequently she monitored the schedule of Harrison or how she coveted my life. People like Nadine do not steal your happiness instantly, but rather consume it slowly until they occupy your place entirely. Harrison filed for divorce unexpectedly on a quiet Tuesday morning and immediately relocated into the apartment of Nadine. The malicious narrative circulated rapidly through the neighborhood, claiming that my cold nature and career focus drove him away. I refused to defend myself on social platforms because fighting felt like acknowledging their cruel fiction. I chose to focus entirely on my medical duties while swallowing the bitter injustice every single day. The situation escalated dramatically when the false rumors reached the administrative board of the hospital. I was the primary candidate to lead the emergency department after designing the life-saving protocols for the facility. Instead, the promotion went to a colleague with far less experience because leadership questioned my stability outside of work. That professional rejection broke my endurance and made me realize that my compliance was ruining my career. I retained a brilliant attorney named Teresa who specialized in complex defamation cases. She explained that to vindicate my reputation, we must demonstrate that specific falsehoods caused measurable financial damage. The lost promotion provided the necessary financial proof, but vindication required revealing medical records in a public courtroom. I felt terrified of the public scrutiny, but I refused to let their deception control my identity any longer. Teresa filed the formal lawsuit, and the news shattered the tranquility of our small town. Beatrice expressed absolute fury to her peers, claiming my legal action was born of pure malice and desperation. The legal counsel representing Harrison made a critical error by asserting that the rumors were entirely accurate. They officially argued that my medical condition caused the childless marriage, which unwittingly opened a legal doorway for our team. To validate their defense, the court required both parties to submit their historical medical documentation. Teresa informed me that by declaring my condition as the cause, Harrison had legally placed his own biological data into scrutiny. He could not make such a definitive claim and then refuse to let the court evaluate his own medical history. The legal strategy worked perfectly and forced him to reveal what he concealed for years. That evening, I remembered a specific day years ago when Harrison visited an urban clinic alone and returned completely altered. He was uncharacteristically quiet and poured a strong drink before dinner, which he never normally did. He snapped at me and called the physician a fraud before closing the topic forever. I realized then that Harrison discovered his own permanent condition back then and invented the lie to protect his pride. That brings us back to the hospital corridor where Beatrice stood boasting about the new child. She expected me to weep or beg for mercy, but I simply asked if she truly believed her own words. At that exact moment, the sliding doors parted and an official courier approached us with the certified legal documents. The subpoenaed records from his past clinic visit completely exposed his long-term deception to the world. The entire fabrication disintegrated instantly as Beatrice read the official medical findings in the public hallway. My name was completely cleared and the hospital board reinstated my rightful promotion within the month. I learned that silence does not protect you from malice, and sometimes you must stand up and demand accountability. Protecting your own truth is not an act of vengeance but a necessary requirement for living with dignity.